agenda so that they might come to a fair decision.
Hey, Cal.
Yes.
Brian. I did have a conversation with Mr. Blau briefly for about 2 minutes at a convenience store that he mentioned what he was doing, but I don't believe it'll affect my ability to make a sound decision.
Okay, thank you for disclosing that. If you feel uncomfortable at any time, just let us know.
Will do.
Consent agenda, the May 30th, 2024 special meeting minutes as presented, and the June 12th, 2024 regular meeting minutes as presented. Were there any other additions or corrections that you saw?
No.
If not, all in favor of approving those, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. We'll move on. New business, 1201 West 15th Street rezone application. Okay, if I slow down, I'll get through faster because I won't have to go back and read anything. 1201 West 15th Street rezone application submitted by Clint Arndt on behalf of Rebecca E. Blau Trust and Sunflower Care Homes. Zach.
All right, as stated, this is an application for a rezone at 1201 West 15th from R1 low-density residential to R3 high-density residential as requested by Clint Arndt on behalf of Rebecca E. Blau Trust and Sunflower Care Homes. So the subject is an undeveloped 4.3 acre or approximately 187,000 square feet tract located along West 15th Street, approximately 0.13 miles from the intersection with Eisenhower Avenue. The parcel is surrounded by existing developments and has a variety of uses in variously zoned districts. To the north are homes zoned R2. The east is a single-family home zoned R1, the owner of which is also the owner of the subject property. And to the west, a church zoned R1, and the south, an existing nursing home facility, Rock Creek, zoned R3. The applicant's requesting a zoning change to allow for an application for a conditional use permit to construct a nursing home / assisted living facility on the site. Per section 6-301 of the adopted zoning ordinance, a nursing home or similar facility is allowed only within the R3 zoning district and only within that district by approval of a conditional use permit. The applicant intends to first secure correct required zoning before pursuing required conditional use permit for this project. The proposed facility would be a singular residential building that would accommodate up to 16 residents. It would also include a storage building / garage and a kids play area for a proposed staff daycare to be located within the building, as well as parking for visitors and staff. The applicant anticipates a minimal impact on parking given the lower number of residents and the unlikelihood of them being active drivers. Applicant also anticipates the facility providing approximately 15 jobs to the community, and this proposed use would be in line with the existing Rock Creek facility to the south and would not be out of character for the surrounding area, which already consists of a variety of residential uses and districts. Here we have an overview image of the property in question. It is highlighted from our city GIS with utilities included and pointed out on the screen. So there's water and sewer along the southern side of the property with West 15th Street, and then there's an existing curb cut and a drainage ditch that runs through the western side of the property. The applicant also provided a preliminary site plan, which is shown to the left here. The far left, you have a view of the entire property, which includes the adjacent parcels, and it does show access to the facility. North in that image is to the left. And then on the right-hand side, there is a closer view of the proposed building and the parking areas, garage, and play area, and north is at the top. So as you can see, the actual footprint of the proposed structure is fairly small given the size of the parcel itself. With this being the first reading of this item and the vote actually taking place in July, staff has just provided a summary of general findings, and the full listing of all the items that the Planning Commission would consider for a vote will be presented at that July hearing. But a summary of the findings is that it has been reviewed by the DRC, and staff did not find any outstanding concerns with this proposed rezoning. The proposed site plan, which was included with the packet, does provide a preliminary overlook of the property, and staff determined that the general size of the building would be appropriate, and the provided parking would actually exceed the required amount for this use, which is 13 spots, and they have provided 23. Utilities and Public Works also provided comments regarding the drainage easement ditch that traverses the north-south line of the western side of the property. And stated that the proposed building should not impact that. Additionally, staff has recommended that the existing curb cut that exists along the southern property line at West 15th Street be utilized for site access. Although if the access point is to be moved to the west, as shown on the site plan, the curb cut would need to be removed and rebuilt as a curb built to city standards. Staff also reviewed this project in regard to potential concerns of spot zoning and has determined that while this would be bordered by lower density zoning to the east and the west, the existing north zoning of R2 and south of R3 would not make this parcel an outlier in the area. Additionally, the surrounding uses, including an existing nursing home and relatively higher traffic uses like churches, support the proposed use and rezoning, and that is a residentially multi-use area and also addresses concerns for additional housing types and services within Ottawa. With that, it is recommended that the Planning Commission deliberate approval of the rezoning at 1201 West 15th Street for the following courses of action. First being taking final action at the July 5th, 2024 regular meeting, or refer that item to that meeting for continued deliberation and consideration.
You said July 5th.
July 25th, I apologize.
Okay, just
Add a 2 in front of that.
okay.
Is the reason we're doing this for publication purposes? Is that why we're moving it out to don't we have another meeting before the 25th?
July 10th.
Aren't all of our meetings regular meetings now?
Yes, this is for the publication purposes.
It is for the publication deadlines. Okay, that was my only question on that. Anybody else have any questions or concerns that Zach needs to address the next time he speaks to us about it?
That property line is really interesting. Is that a natural drainage ditch that they're accommodating there? Like it's just a natural draw that's going through there?
I believe so. Utilities didn't comment on that. It does appear to have some natural flow, but I can find some background information on that if it's a.
It does.
It does,
It
okay.
does.
I was just
And it
curious.
drains into an existing retention pond, I believe, from the church property. Is that, I believe it drains into the existing retention pond from the church property. And it's a little bit out of our purview, but it
Right.
will, I mean,
That'll come
their
to-
drainage will have to be addressed on their final plot plan. But that's, from what I see on your renderings here, looks like you got it pretty well nailed down, so.
And they've been notified, so they can come, if they have any concerns over it, they can come to our public hearing, because they have been given notification. So, and so on the 25th, we'll have a public hearing followed by, we'll have staff presentation and a public hearing, since we're
Yes.
doing a rezone. Okay. Anything else? Commissioner Kane?
I'm good.
Okay, all right, well, I guess we'll see everybody on the 25th.
And if there's any additional questions or follow-up that you all would like about the application, please let me know so I can prepare that.
And I guess at this time, I see somebody there with a sunflower shirt. Did you guys have anything to add to this at this time?
No, I think his summary is pretty spot on of what I was going to address.
If you'd come to the mic and just state your name, please.
Clint Arndt, I'm the owner of Sunflower Care Homes. I have locations in Malden City and Emporia. And so we've been kind of excited and anticipating coming to Ottawa. I lived in Ottawa for a few years. I have a lot of family here in Ottawa. But my wife was a physician here in Ottawa for a few years, and so we saw the need of a new building, more long-term care services, and we worked with the Blau family, providing some services for them, and so they offered us to maybe do something with this land, and so we think it's a great location. It fits with the neighborhood. It conforms with the nursing homes to the south and everything. Of course, the current owner will be a neighbor of this, and he didn't oppose having this next to him. It will create jobs and tax base for the city of Ottawa and Franklin County. Provide the jobs. It's actually relatively low traffic count, considering other options. If if there were multifamily units or even, single-family residents and things. We only average 2 to 4 staff usually. This particular building would accommodate up to 16 residents, providing long-term care, memory care, dementia support, things like that. We want to do a licensed daycare. There's just as big of a need for a licensed daycare as there is long-term care. So we put licensed daycares in our buildings for staff. But then if we have available spots, then we open that up to the public. A lot of times we work with first responders, hospital workers, things like that that are in the same field, medical field as we are, to try to help accommodate them. So we're in the area. We have a lot of City of Ottawa, Franklin County residents that currently use our services, but they have to drive to Baldwin, and we want to provide those services here in Ottawa.
Hey, thank you. You will be here on the 25th in case somebody from the audience has questions. Okay, thank you.
I've been in both of those Baldwin facilities and around both of those Baldwin facilities, and they're very nice, very well-kept facilities.
Good, good. All right, moving along. Thank you, everybody. Moving along, this is what I was hurrying to get to because I was so excited about getting this next presentation. And so we'll have another review of the capital improvements plan with Finance Director Melanie Landis.
All right, well, thank you. We did talk about this at your last meeting, and we reviewed kind of what had been presented to the City Commission, and just as an overview, the City Commission has heard the CIP and heard about all of the detail for each of the projects that are included, and the next step has been to bring it to you for your review to ensure that it's in conformance with the comprehensive plan. So that's your goal in the whole process. And I did include in the PowerPoint slide just a breakdown of the document that's already in your packet. So while it does state, well, thank you. It does state that that you'll review the comprehensive plan once a year, and that part of that process, this is part of that process. If you want to move down 2 slides, that would be helpful. Thank you. And so what we did is we just went through and we identified the areas within the comp plan that were that paired with each of the types of projects that were here. And some don't have, they're not referenced, and some have a specific reference. So that's what you have had in your packet, both at the last meeting and this meeting, for your review. At the last meeting, we just did a cursory overview of the listing of all the projects that are in the current CIP, and we left it as in you would let me know if you had questions, and that we'd come back and have another opportunity for you to ask those questions, and so that's why I'm here. And if you'd like, we can go through the projects. We don't have to. I can just answer questions, whatever you'd like to.
I have one question, and you may or may not be able to answer this. The 15th and Main traffic light replacement, for lack of a better way of putting it, what's wrong with what they got?
I believe it's been in since the 70s, and that there are opportunities for it to be better equipped for pedestrian safety and the crosswalk signals, those types of things. So out of, I believe there's, I can't remember, I want to say there's maybe 15 traffic lights that need to be replaced, or that out of 15, there's like 11 that need replaced because of their age and the abilities of what they can do, and this is one of them. So this just made it first on the list. There's
So it's more so the pedestrian crosswalks and that kind of thing that they're, okay.
I believe so, yeah.
I don't walk through that area, so that, I don't know.
Agreed.
11 intersections need replacing? There aren't that many more than that. in Ottawa.
I would have to ask for a list of what those are, where those intersections are that the traffic.
Oh, my goodness.
need replacing.
Okay.
I think you'd be surprised. I think
Yeah.
what
I
you're
feel-
saying is they almost all
Yeah.
need to be replaced
Yeah,
except for the
yeah,
last
yeah.
couple that have been put in. So-
Well, I've had adventures on Maine where I hit every single one of them, so I'm often aware that they're there. Yeah.
And it's, you know, it's sort of like, I'm guessing on that one, it's sort of like what they call, and don't ask me what the acronym is for, the PAPI lights at the airport. We have to have them because they tell you when you're coming in too high or too low. And since we have a high transmission line at the north end of the runway, and most of our landings are to the south end of the wind, it's pretty important to have those at night. And they're obsolete. They're obsolete. We can't get parts to replace them anymore. So in this particular case, it's not on here, but we're just pursuing a FAA grant on an emergency basis to get them 100% covered. But it's similar things than that. When you have something that's been in since the 70s, I mean, you know, you deal with that stuff all the time, and you deal with stuff older than the 70s, so, and so does Commissioner Kane, but sometimes you just have to replace it. Sometimes you can't repair it anymore.
And you know, I think, I'm glad you asked about it specifically, because it's not just particular to that one item, but there are several things in here that typically, because they're already in place, they're really considered a maintenance and a replacement on a maintenance repair schedule or replacement schedule. And a lot of times those things don't make it into a capital improvement program because they're just maintenance. Well,
Right.
these are larger dollar items, but also we try to use this as a communication tool as best we can. And I think there's other projects in there, like I think I mentioned to you last time, the water line repair projects.
Right.
Those water main replacements is not, it's more of a maintenance thing, right? It's an infrastructure that's already in place. Replacement doesn't necessarily mean that it's a brand new installation of a project somewhere that you might think of being in your CIP, but it's more of a communication that, hey, these are the sections that need to be repaired over time, and this is how we're getting to them.
Yeah, yeah.
On the, this may be a very preliminary question. I know the city does a lot of their own sewer and water replacements. They don't contract it out. The stuff that's listed on the CIP, is that going to be self-performed, or is that going to be contracted out, or do we have any idea at this
I
point?
do not know that answer
Okay.
at this point. Most of these projects are in 26 and beyond. There's
Yeah.
very few that are in 25. But I don't actually know the answer to that.
Fair enough.
You have other,
Yep, just
I-
to answer your questions, our next step would be actually bringing this to you in a public hearing format, and that would be on at your August 14th meeting. And so we basically wanted to make sure you didn't have any heartburn questions, things that needed to be taken care of before we go ahead and publish that public hearing notice, and then we'll just be back to discuss it one more time, and we would ask for you to vote after that public hearing, whether or not you find it in conformance. If there's anything that you see that you don't agree with what we've provided and that it is in conformance, we would really need to know ahead of time so that we can help take care of those issues before we get to the public hearing, just so that we don't have to delay the process.
yeah, and I would again stress, I think as Director Landis did, our function is not to question the individual projects. Our function is to look at the projects and see if they conform to the overall plan, to make sure we're not doing something or taking funds away from something that needs to be done that's not part of the plan. Is that a,
Yeah, that's true. And, you know, we've always brought it to you in the, kind of in a dual format to say, hey, we enjoyed the feedback. A lot of times this is the commission that also has a lot of insight into some of those bigger projects and development of different areas in town. And so a lot of time we've had that conversation about the projects that are in there. But ultimately, yes, the goal is to find whether or not it is in conformity.
okay. And we've had one public gathering on it or not, or don't we have one or two scheduled?
For the plan or for this? For the comprehensive plan?
I was thinking it was for,
That's tonight, isn't it?
Yes, there is one tonight. It's just an informational session.
yes,
just kind
is
of
there,
going
is there,
over-
are there two of them or just one?
There's four.
There's four,
There
okay.
will be four, but again, they're primarily informational about just the process of updating the plan.
Right.
Less specific details like this. So the people are welcome to attend, obviously. It doesn't
I
necessarily.
was gonna say, isn't that what they're for, is for the
Yeah.
people to attend to find out what we're talking about? I mean, that's.
Yes, but
Okay.
again, I'm just outlining that what tonight's information session about is truly going over basically what even a comprehensive plan is, and how we are going about the process of updating it. It doesn't dive deep into items quite like this.
But there is information on the city website, and isn't there some type of survey on the city website? Or
There is.
Yeah.
a questionnaire on the city website also?
There is. That is just basically a temperature check for the community, for residents here in town to get an idea. So we are able to get an idea of where specific concerns and successes lie based on community input.
And if there were things that you saw that there were lots of concerns about it, that would be something you would transmit to the city commission, I'm assuming, at some point?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, okay.
We're still, that's been live for about a week now. So we're obviously giving that some time to gather more input. We're approaching 50 responses so far. So
good.
pretty good progress on that. But we would still definitely like to see a bit more of the population get involved with that, for
Okay.
sure.
Well, the only reason I'm bringing it up is because we are now, all of our meetings are broadcast, and I think every time we have the opportunity to let citizens know, even if there's one or two on here, to let citizens know that they have the opportunity to give input, it's better for us, so, okay. Anything else, Director Landis?
That would be me.
I have another question.
Okay,
Again, you may or may not know, the Princeton Circle 17th, 21st sidewalk improvements,
Yes.
I'm really glad to see that on there because I'm in a position, I see people walking down the highway and it's just not a good situation. On that sidewalk improvement plan, is there anything in that about the crosswalks that they're gonna have to add at the 17th Street intersection?
We've had preliminary conversations about that, and the difficulty with adding the crosswalks is that they need to have, typically, when you add a crosswalk on one side, you want to make sure it has somewhere to go on the other side of the street. And so I believe in both directions, off of that 17th, the end of that curve at 17th, that is a question that we've preliminarily discussed. There isn't a really good place to go. As you cross right there, there's not a good connecting sidewalk on the other side on either side. So at this point, the conceptual design just basically shows it being a sidewalk that comes around. But we do need to have more conversation when we truly design it to see what that's going to look like.
Yeah, because if they bring those sidewalks up both sides of, people want to call it Country Mart Price Chopper, they bring that up, both of those sidewalks are gonna come up to that point right there with no place to go, and they're gonna have to be a crosswalk going both ways out of that point.
At 17.
Yeah, those sidewalks are gonna come in and bring into it like a funnel. They're just on the south side of 17th Street where the split starts.
So there are currently sidewalks right there on that north end of that section. Right, I believe that they come down to the side already. I would have to go back and look at the actual drawing, but I'll make sure that we mention that to our city engineer when they get that plan together, for the sidewalks. And in fact, I think what I was referencing was more on the southern end, that's down near the 21st here.
Yeah. Will this be was this in the TIF district, or is this an addition outside the TIF
No,
district?
this is in the TIF
TIF
district, so we
Okay.
do have to keep those dollars from the TIF district within the TIF district.
Yes,
And then also trying to make sure that we're utilizing the best use of the trail that's already running to the west, on the other side of the street, and those access points as well, making sure that, okay, if you're bringing the trail, can you cross and get to the sidewalk in order to maneuver your way through
Right.
that
Right.
district? So, I think there's a lot of key points when the actual design comes together. that
A lot
we need to
of
address.
details to work out.
Yes, yeah, and this doesn't mean oftentimes when a project's in here that the true design has already been done. We have, the conceptual design was done, the conceptual drawing, let's call it that, was done a couple of years ago when we first started discussing it, but we knew at that time that TIF district hadn't generated enough dollars to do the project. And now, based on what our estimates are, we think that there is enough dollars in there to be able to accomplish the project. So that's why it's making its way into the CIP now.
okay, thank you. Anything else? Commissioner Kane, did you have anything?
I did not.
Okay, all right, thank you, Director Landis. Staff comments.
No real comments, just a reminder, we've discussed it a few times during this meeting today, but we do have an informational session for the public regarding the comprehensive plan update this evening. It'll be from approximately 6 to 8, so if people are able to make it out, that'd be great. Again, it's just a general overview of what we at the city are doing in our approach to update the comprehensive plan. It's been 20 years and it's time.
It's time. And it's in this room?
Yep, it'll be in the commission chambers here at
Okay.
City Hall.
Thank you. Commissioner comments. Do we have anything today? Commissioner Kane?
Nope.
Nope?
No.
Good. Then we're going to move right into announcements. July 10th, 2024 is the Planning Commission meeting at 7 p.m. And July 25th, 2024 is the Planning Commission meeting at noon, both at City Hall. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.